everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of What's Cooking. My name is Mona Ahmed. I'm the founder and owner and chief everything officer of Bonus Curryations. We make restaurant-inspired frozen skillet meals that represent Pakistani Indian cuisine. And you can learn more on our website, listed below. So I'm so excited to be here today because I love to cook. And I was really lucky to have a home that my mom cooked delicious food for us all the time. And I was born in Pakistan, and so I come from a region where a lot of our dishes have a lot of textures, flavors, and aromas. And that's how really my love for food started. And so today I'm excited to share a dish with you that's very popular in our region. It's called Karahi Chicken. And Karahi is actually the name of a pot. It looks a little bit like a wok, and sometimes it has two handles, sometimes it doesn't. But really you can use any pot like I'm gonna do today. But it's really the ingredients that really bring this dish to life. And these are the ingredients that we'll be using today. We do have 16 ingredients that we'll be using. We will be using some oil. I'm using canola oil. We're going to use about anywhere from 2 to 4 ounces, depending on how much we need, because we will saute the dish towards the end. And then, but you can also use olive oil, you can use corn oil, vegetable oil, whatever you have on hand. We are also going to be using 2 pounds of chicken. I am using boneless, skinless chicken breast. And, but this dish is really nice with any cut of chicken. You can even use chicken with bone. You can even make it with beef, goat, or lamb, or any protein really. The other ingredients that we'll be using is I'm using fresh garlic. I'm using about 8 cloves of garlic. I'm also using about 4 inches of fresh ginger, and I'm using about 1 to 2 ounces of water, which we'll use to grind this ginger and garlic. We're going to use some fresh cilantro, basically a handful. We're going to use a long hot chili pepper. I like the long hot chili pepper because it's actually very moderate. It's not too spicy and not too mild. We're going to be using 2 types of tomatoes. I'm going to be using about 3 medium-sized plum tomatoes, and then I'm going to be using about 8 ounces or a cup of tomato puree. Because I'm not always sure how the tomatoes will taste based on the season. Right now we're later in the year, and so just to make sure that we get the right taste and the ripeness and the color of the dish, I am going to be using the puree as well. And we are also going to be using some spices. So we have salt, we'll use that to taste. I'm going to use about 1.25 teaspoons. We're going to use turmeric. We're going to use some garam masala. So what's interesting about our dishes are that a lot of the spices that we use, for example, garam masala actually comes whole. And then you can, depending on what dish you're using, you can either use it whole or you can use it ground, which I'll be using here. And garam masala is a blend of spices, as you can tell. And it varies. Again, this also, it could be a number of different ingredients, but it usually includes cardamom, cinnamon, cumin, black peppercorns, cloves, nutmeg. So it's a really nice blend of flavors that all come together. And you can just see all the different ingredients that are in there. And then we'll also be using some chili powder. I know we are using the long hot, but we also like to use some ground chilies. And just, we'll also be using some cumin powder here, also cumin. Again, you can see that the full seed, you can see the full seed looks like this. But in this case, we're going to be using the ground version. And then we're using some coriander powder. That also we'll be using 1 teaspoon. And again, with coriander, they come in as little pods, and we usually grind these up. And that's what we'll be using for this dish. And the last ingredient we'll be using is fenugreek. I love fenugreek. It's actually like an herb. And you get them fresh as well in like more of the ethnic grocery stores, but you can also find them dry. I'm going to use dry for this one. It has a very aromatic smell to it, and it also brings us particular taste that's really delightful. But you do have to be careful with fenugreek because if you use too much, it can get a little bitter. So for that, this is what we'll be working with today. And so let's get started. And why don't we start off first with the tomatoes. I'm going to take the tomatoes, and what I really like about this dish is that it's a one-pot dish. I essentially will put everything in this one pot, and then we can just let it cook and simmer down, and the cilantro we'll use more towards the end. So with the tomatoes, I washed them. I just cut off the end. Just throw this in my garbage. And then they can really be any size. You don't have to be very particular about how they're cut. You just need to dice them up. And again, as I was mentioning, they look beautiful. They're very red, but it's not always very clear if the taste will come, give us the taste that we want exactly, just because of the season that we're in. Cut here. I'm going to start putting some of this stuff in the pot. Use the last tomato. And again, you cut them. I like plum tomatoes, but really you can use any kind of tomatoes that you have on hand. It's really to give it the color and the flavor that we're looking for when it comes to a Karahi chicken. We'll also use the tomato puree. I tend to like the brands that have are more pure, not too many preservatives or additives, and so it's really just tomatoes, ripened tomatoes that are pureed. And this is about 8 ounces or a cup. So put that in here. I use my spoon. Then, so I like the long hot chilies. As I was mentioning, you can use something that's spicier or hotter in temperature, in heat. But I like something that's moderate. And all I did was really snip off the ends, and one suffices. Again, you don't have to be fancy with how you cut it. I'm just going to cut it this way. And if you don't like very spicy food, you can always omit this piece. You don't have to include it. We'll do that. Now let's look at our ginger and garlic. For our garlic, I have 8 cloves, and I got the peeled garlic. And so what we're going to do is just take off the ends, because we don't want the ends on there. And we all know that garlic is so good for us, and we really use a lot of garlic in our cooking. We love the taste, the flavor. It really is the base of many of our curries, you can say. I'm going to put that here on the side. And then we're going to use ginger. I'm using about 4 inches. I've already cut a little bit of a piece, and this also, because I'm going to use it in the food processor, I just want the pieces to be somewhat uniform, and so they can grind evenly. Ginger, we love ginger, and ginger has so many inherent health benefits. I'm just going to peel this one. So again, I basically just washed the ginger, and I'm just going to peel it. You can just smell ginger. We put ginger even in our tea. We let the water boil with the ginger in it, and it tastes so good, and it smells so good. They're just certain foods that we're so used to. And it's nice. Ginger is a really nice ingredient for many dishes. And again, I'm just going to cut it in somewhat smaller pieces. You can also, now I'm grinding the ginger and garlic, but you know, sometimes you can also just put it more sliced. It really depends on what kind of textures you like. So let me get the food processor. I have a little mini one. I'm going to put this in there. And I'm going to use a little bit of water just to help with the grinding. And then I'll start it. And if you look at this, the consistency is very nice. You know, it's nice and grounded. And so again, we'll put this in the pot. You can already smell all the different flavors coming together. And then I can just mix it a little bit. You can already see the beautiful colors in there. We're also going to be using the oil I'd mentioned, and again, you can use any oil that you'd like. I'm going to start with about 2 ounces. I'll probably put a little more towards the end to help saute it. This dish also, you can put butter in it, so I won't make it that decadent, and I'll just add a little more oil at the end. Let's work with our spices now. So salt, you can do it to taste. I'm going to put about, since I'm using 2 pounds of chicken, I'm going to use a little bit of a heaping teaspoon of salt. But of course, whatever salt you're used to using, you can use that. Turmeric really, we know a lot of the health benefits of turmeric. Turmeric really helps us with the color. It gives a little bit of the color of the food, but also the aroma that comes with it, the delicious aroma. So I'm going to use half a teaspoon. Then the garam masala, I'm going to use a teaspoon of this, and it could be like a level teaspoon. It's amazing how all these flavors come together when they start cooking. It's just delish. And now chili powder. Again, this is to taste. I'm going to put about a little less than a half a teaspoon. But if you like something spicier, you can either put a little more of chili powder or you can put a little more of the long hot peppers. Cumin. This I'm going to take a teaspoon of. Coriander. I'm going to take a teaspoon. And fenugreek. So the fenugreek, I'm going to use a teaspoon, but before I put it in, I'm actually going to put it in my hands and crush it a little bit, because when you crush it, the taste and flavor and smell seems to come out a little more. So we do that. So we're going to mix all that up. Okay. The cilantro I will chop a little later because we'll use it more towards the end of the dish, so it kind of still stays green, and we will use it somewhat as a garnish. What's interesting about cilantro is I know some people, either you love it or you don't. And I'm one of the people that loves it, and so I really do like to use a lot of it. But those who don't like it, I know scientifically they really don't like it. So it's okay. This dish will be just fine without it as well if you can't handle cilantro, don't like it. So I will bring my board back. I've cut most of the pieces. I basically made them like bite-sized cubes. You can say they're about 1 inch across. And so I just wanted to show you what I usually do. I do wash the chicken. I'm using boneless, skinless chicken breast, and I'm using actually halal chicken. And really what this means is halal means permissible in the Arabic language. And it means that the animals that are raised for halal consumption have no antibiotics, no hormones. They are raised humanely and is vegetarian fed. And so as Muslims, we eat halal, comparable to kind of like you can say kosher, but we're finding that the halal market is increasing a lot because people are also finding the health benefits of halal. So, but of course you can use any type of chicken. And again, I'm using the breast, but you can use anything that you, any cut of meat that you like, and it can even include bone. So we just want it to be a clean cut. And so I'm taking off any of the fat or anything extra that we really don't want on there. Just take a minute to do that. I am one of those people who does wash chicken before I cut it. So I've washed the chicken. And again, you're just gonna cut it into like bite-sized pieces. Put it here, I can just put it straight in there. And all of these flavors will come together and they'll cook very nicely. Now, if you were to look up Karahi chicken on the internet, you'll probably find at least 10 different ways of cooking it. But this is the way that I actually, I was raised to cook it, and also my family enjoys today. So that's why I decided to share this one with you. But there are different variations to the same dish. And so the chicken is done, and I'll just put the rest. And we're going to just stir everything. As you can see, there's a lot of colors in this meal, and the smell, even though everything's still pretty raw, You can really smell the ginger, the garlic, the spices, everything's coming together. And just mix it well. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover it. I'm going to put the stove on and we're going to cover it, but we're not going to cover it fully. We're just going to cover it a little bit, mostly. And then I'll put the stove on, and then I thought we'd make some basmati rice to pair with it. So let's go there. And we will cook this on a little bit to medium to high heat because all of the tomatoes do need to reduce. And so it's nice when it's a little more, when the heat's a little stronger. But do keep an eye on it because you don't want it to burn. So we will saute it throughout and turn it around, mix it throughout. All right, I think we're good in terms of the heat. Okay, great. So in another pot, what I wanted to do was I thought karahi chicken tastes very nice also with rice, some plain rice. And I'm using basmati rice. Now basmati rice is something that is special to our region. It's really grown in the Indian, Pakistani areas, the Himalayan ranges and stuff. And it's a long grain rice. It's actually one of the longest grain rices there are. And what makes this rice special is it's so fragranced. And naturally it's so fragranced. And when it cooks, it actually almost doubles in size, but lengthwise. So you'll see that it's a longer grain. And the way the ratio is, and so you can just smell it and it tastes nice, and watch when it starts cooking, you're just gonna be like, wow, that smells really nice. And I make it very simply. All I do is I really use a ratio of 1:1. So 1 cup of rice, 1 cup of water. And I add a little bit of oil to it. Today I'll be making 4 cups of rice because I have 2 pounds of chicken. And so I've already put 4 cups of water in here. And I'm just going to add the rice. I've already washed this rice, but it's 4 cups. I've already washed. I washed it about 3-4 times. I wanted the water to be clear when at the end of it. So I'll put the stove on as well. But before I do, I'll also just put in some oil. Some people put salt. I don't really put salt, but again, it's your preference. If you find that you would like to put a little bit of salt, or you can put some other spices in it. Some people even put cardamom in it and so forth. I'm just leaving it as is, as a plain rice, just so that really the flavors of the karahi chicken come out, and that's where it complements it nicely with the rice. So I'm just going to use my hands for a second. We believe in our culture that every morsel of food has somebody's name on it. So I don't want to forget these 3 morsels. All right, I'm just going to put a little bit of oil. And that helps with the separation also a little bit. And again, similar to my karahi chicken, I'm just going to cover it enough but leave a little bit of room for the steam to go out. Because right now we're gonna cook it on higher heat, and then in about 10 minutes, once the water's evaporated, we're going to then lower the heat to low and then cover it completely. And it'll cook for about 10 minutes. This chicken, because it is, we have the tomatoes and all the, the chicken's also gonna release some water, the tomatoes are gonna release some water. This is gonna take about maybe 20 to 25 minutes to cook and reduce. And then we'll come back to it. We'll add some cilantro, chopped cilantro, saute it a little bit, make sure we have enough oil, but not too oily, I know. And then we can eat. Okay. So I'm gonna put this now on high, like medium to high, the rice. And we'll go from there. You can already, it smells so good. It smells really good. And it looks beautiful too as a dish. All the colors come out. I can already smell all of it coming together. And so, again, I'm just gonna let that go. Hi everyone, it's been about 20 minutes, so I think let's check on the food. I have been stirring it a little bit throughout, and so I'll lift the cover up. It's been still cooking between anywhere from medium to high heat. And oh wow, I can smell, delish. And as you can see, the gravy has gotten less because for karahi chicken, the gravy is a little thicker. Now I am just going to add a little more oil. You don't have to, but just to give it a little more taste at the end, like so I can saute it. So that was maybe about 2 more ounces. And I'm going to turn it. Meanwhile, I also want to look at the cilantro because I washed some cilantro. I have about a handful. And I'm just going to kind of chop the edge off. And I'm going to just cut this little in small pieces. Again, similar to kind of like the fenugreek, for cilantro also, you want to chop it for the flavors to come out. And again, for those of you who don't like cilantro, you don't have to add this. But we're going to put it in. It makes a dish so pop with the cilantro. I'm going to mix it. As you can see, the gravy is thickened. It smells really good. And the cilantro also looks so pretty. And you can smell the cilantro as well. Meanwhile, I'm just going to take a look at the rice. That looks great. Now this cooked for about 10 minutes on medium to high. And then when the water evaporated, then I covered it completely and I put it on low. And so what I'm going to do with the rice, again, this is basmati rice. I use 4 cups rice, 4 cups water with a little bit of oil. And I'm just going to fluff it a little bit before I serve it. And you can see that the grains are separated and it smells so good. I love basmati rice. And you can get basmati rice in different types also. Like you can get brown basmati rice and even I believe wild basmati rice. And again, this is something that is special to our region. And so it's a really nice treat. And I think it complements it very well. And here's our karahi chicken. And I think it's absolutely done. It looks delicious. It smells delicious. And then I will taste it. So I'm going to turn off the stove. I'm going to turn off the stove for the karahi chicken as well as the stove for the rice. And I'm going to plate it, but I'm going to take 1 taste of it. It's hot, so I'm going to blow. Just right. Yum. Can't wait. So what I'll do is I'm going to take some rice. I can use this and just plate it on here. And I'm going to put some of the chicken with the gravy. And delicious. Enjoy. So good. Put it here. And so I was so happy to be with you all today. Thank you so much for joining me in the kitchen. And I hope to see you soon. And I'd like to end off by saying Alhamdulillah. This is the Arabic word that we use for thank you for all our blessings. So I thank you for being with me today. I thank you for the food that we're about to eat. And I thank you for us that we can share this together. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.